Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 15th of February and we are going to deal with two very important topics which are there. One of these two topics is basically a continuation from yesterday because we are running a series, the precursor to the economic survey which has been released by the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance. So we are covering that book. So one part or one topic in today's video will be that. The other one, which is very important, is India faces the WTO pressure. WTO is a related agency under the United Nations. What is the pressure? Now, under WTO, which India is a member of, any country cannot give over and above subsidies to its farmers. Here, India is giving input subsidies in the form of PM Kisan or fertilizer subsidy. And on the other hand, the government is procuring the food grains on the minimum support price from the farmers. The MSP, minimum support price, is considered as output subsidy by WTO. You cannot exceed beyond a limit. On one side, there is pressure from WTO, and on the other side, there is pressure from the farmers to have a guaranteed minimum support price. If India gives a guaranteed MSP to the farmers, it will definitely be violating the norms in WTO. Now, this is basically a dilemma the government of India right now is having. Then, this Indian economy, a review, this series is going on. So, yesterday we covered the decades from 1950 till 2014, and now we will see what happened in 2014 to 2024, this decade. Then, what have been the drivers of India's growth in the last decade? What are all those factors which have led to growth of India? This is what we'll do over here. And certainly, this growth has not come without challenges. So we will be looking into the challenges part as well. So let's get started with this. Now, basically, government of India is there in the middle. On one side, the farmers, as the farmer protests are going on, we know that. We also know those 7 demands which the farmers have put across, although their demands have been changing a bit, but yes, largely those 7 demands are there. And the first and foremost demand was they want a guaranteed MSP. They want that the government procures all their food crops on the MSP, which is announced by the government before every season. The government does not procure as of now all the crops from all the farmers. But their demand is from all the farmers, all their products should be procured by the government. That is what guaranteed MSP means. So on one side, the government of India is being pressurized by the farmers for a guaranteed MSP. And on the other side, there is this global body called as the World Trade Organization. This is a related agency under the United Nations. It is largely considered as a regulator of international trade or foreign trade. It regulates international trade and foreign trade, and international trade and foreign trade of farm products is also under the ambit of WTO. Now, there are certain things we need to understand over here that WTO has put certain restrictions on various countries that okay, you are providing subsidies to your farmers. The subsidies should not be of that much amount that it distorts the global food prices. Like for example, I am X country. I am giving subsidies to my farmers. Farmers in my country are producing wheat, let's suppose. And I have a lot of money. I have deep pockets as the government of that country. So I am giving a lot of subsidies to the farmers. The farmers are happy with that subsidy. Farmers are producing wheat and they can be selling wheat at very lower prices because they have my support, my subsidies support to them. They can be selling wheat at lower prices in their country. That is not a problem. But yes, if they are exporting that low cost wheat to other countries, it will distort the market of other countries. It will not let domestic cultivation or domestic farmers of that particular countries to which they are exporting wheat, their farmers' interests will be compromised because nobody in those countries will buy no, the domestic farmers wheat, which will be comparatively higher in cost. So WTO lays certain kind of restrictions on subsidies on agriculture. That is why you know that. Another reason why WTO restricts subsidies basically are of two types. Subsidy is basically any kind of support given to the people. Here the people are farmers. The subsidy can be input subsidy, where you are subsidizing various agricultural inputs like fertilizers or any XYZ irrigation facilities and all, they are subsidized. So those will be counted in input subsidies. Another type of subsidy is output subsidy. Let's suppose you are providing support to the farmers by procuring their food grains at higher prices. That is also support. If you procure at lower prices, that is not support. If you are procuring at higher prices, that is support to the farmers. So minimum support price is basically over here. It is an output subsidy. If I keep this too high, so then the price of those agricultural commodities in the open market will be high. Exporters, for example, now in India, the government is providing MSP. Exporters in India will be exporting those food grains at higher prices to other countries. In this case, what will happen is that people, particularly of the poor countries, underdeveloped countries, they will not be able to buy that food grains because its cost is high. As a result, food security will not be maintained. That is why it is another reason that why WTO puts or wants to, regulate on the subsidies provided by the countries to its farmers. First of all, first reason I gave you is that it can lead to market distortion of other countries by extremely low prices. Second of all, by extremely high prices, it can lead to, I would say, challenges in attaining food security. So this is basically what the scenario is. And now what is happening, we will see. On one side, Government of India is facing pressure from the farmers, and on the other side from WTO. Farmers are wanting to guarantee MSP. Guaranteeing MSP means this support, output subsidy will increase. It will surpass the, I would say, limit which WTO has currently kept, that is around 10% it is. So we will come under litigation in WTO. That is what will happen if the government goes for addressing or accommodating the demands of the farmers. So that is why India is under pressure on its farm subsidies at the World Trade Organization. And by this month end, February 26 and 27, there is going to be a ministerial meeting of WTO in Abu Dhabi. So let's see what happens over there. Now, what are these countries claiming? There are many countries which are claiming that India should not be giving these subsidies. They are claiming that India's public stock holding program is highly subsidized, and the farm support that India gives is distorting global food practices and hurting food security of other countries. So basically both the things they are saying, that you give a lot of input subsidies also and you are giving a lot of output subsidies also India, which is distorting global food practices, and it is also not letting food security, or it is hurting food security of other countries. Both the things are happening with India's farm subsidies, as the countries claim. Now the issue in WTO, last year WTO adopted a resolution to reduce trade distorting farm subsidies by all the member nations. Now this is not actually the first time WTO adopted last year. WTO said, we should look into this now, because in 2013 in Doha, in a WTO meeting, this issue was put to rest. There was a peace clause signed. What was that peace clause? We will see. And it was put to rest, let the countries give as of now. But we need to adopt a solution. We need to find a solution. And last year WTO said that we are not able to find a solution since, so we will be going for reducing the subsidies given by the countries to the farmers. According to some estimates, it would reduce the subsidies to half, whatever WTO is demanding the countries to go. to do. Now, in this scenario, the developing countries are worried. Worried because, the developed countries, farmers over there in developed countries who are having large land holdings, they, without the subsidies also, because WTO is saying subsidies reduce the subsidies. Now, without the subsidies also, the farmers in the developed countries, they will be, you know, supplying food crops at cheap prices. And since subsidies are reduced, the subsidies on those developing countries are also reduced. The farm products over there, they will go up, their prices will go up, because farmers will pass on the increased cost of production to the common people. Now, the common people in those developing countries, will they go for buying the domestic farmers' produce, which is higher cost due to lack of subsidies to them? Or will they go for buying the reduced cost agricultural products imported from the developed countries? Obviously, they will go for buying the reduced cost products, agricultural products. Countries will also be compelled, developing countries will also be compelled to import from the developed countries, because food inflation will be too high if increased cost of farm produce by the domestic farmers will be procured by the people. So that is the situation which it will be, and that is why it is becoming a problem for developing and underdeveloped countries. The main problem with WTO in counting subsidies is that the counting by WTO is not done per farmer subsidy, how much the government is providing. If per farmer subsidy is counted, then India's subsidies to its farmers is pretty low, well within the limit. But it does not count it in this way. How does it count? It counts the total subsidies given, total output of that particular sector. So that should not exceed 10%, let's suppose over here. So that for India is going to exceed if MSP is guaranteed. Now, is India legally entitled to give subsidies under WTO? Notably, India cannot be dragged into a dispute as of now over its subsidies, because it is protected by the peace clause that was agreed by the WTO members during the Bali ministerial in 2013. But there are some provisions in the peace clause which are ambiguous, due to which India can face disputes. Now, there's a person who's an expert on the WTO matters. He has said that WTO norms don't restrict us from providing high MSP. Because of the peace clause, there is no restrictions on what should be the level of MSP or the level of procurement. But there is no 100% legal certainty. We are questioned at WTO, and that is why we are trying to seek a permanent solution. There may be a possibility that if we provide guaranteed MSP, we may be protected under the peace clause, but that is not 100% guaranteed. More chances are that we will be dragged into litigation. Because under WTO, presently, without giving this guaranteed MSP, India many a times is dragged into litigations, or it is dragged into debates, discussions and disputes with other member countries. Now, what is the peace clause of 2013? We need to understand this as well. It was agreed that in the interim, until a permanent solution is reached, members would exercise due restraint. Nobody will sue each other. Commonly termed as peace clause, means they will maintain peace in raising disputes in respect of public stock holding programs for food security purposes, even if the countries exceeded their permissible limits. So this simply meant that countries were allowed to exceed their permissible limits. Permissible limits is basically 10% for developing countries. Nobody will, I would say, drag you into dispute redressal. Consequent to the firm stand taken by India at WTO, this peace clause was extended by a decision of WTO General Council in November 2014, and it was ensured that the peace clause would be available in perpetuity until a permanent solution is found. Last year, that is why WTO gave that ruling ki we should go for limiting or restricting the subsidies because no permanent solution is being found. So let's see what happens in this year's ministerial, which is there by the end of February in Abu Dhabi. Now, the MSP dilemma for the government. Farmer groups have stated that agriculture should be taken out of WTO, but that approach could pose problems and would restrict India and other developing nations from disciplining the subsidies being given by the developed world. If the agriculture is taken out of WTO's ambit, then to everyone will give subsidies as per their pockets. There will be no restrictions. Developed countries have deep pockets, so they can give more subsidies to their farmers. Their farmers can sell cheaper products and they can distort the market in a more intense way. India does not want that. Since they are under WTO, there are certain restrictions on all. So those need to be respected. Now, if these new schemes are implemented, now in that peace clause, that date was also written. Instituted before 7th December 2013, all these kind of schemes which are instituted before 7th December 2013, they will be allowed. Any new scheme or the structure of the scheme changes, that will invite litigation. And now MSP was there before 2013, it is there since 1960s in India. Every year the MSP goes on increasing because inflation has to be counted in that. That is not, changing of the scheme. It will increase because everything is getting expensive. The agricultural inputs are getting expensive. So MSP will also rise. But if we change the structure of the scheme, means we are guaranteeing MSP to all the farmers of the country, that obviously will make India surpass this 10% subsidy ceiling. This is what the problem will be in front of India, and then India will not be protected under the peace clause if this is surpassed. Because see, if it would have been an old scheme and there it would have been surpassing, not a problem. But a new scheme, and the new scheme has to follow the ceiling, subsidy ceiling. So it is like this. So in the peace clause, it was written that any scheme instituted before 7th December 2013, even if countries exceed their permissible limits in these schemes constituted before 2013. But this is going to be kind of a new scheme, guaranteed MSP, constituted after 2013, and that has to respect the 10% ceiling. That will not be respecting the 10% ceiling mark. That will surpass it. So it is like this. What is the government going to do? It is a tough situation right now for the government. On the other hand, elections are also coming. So a lot of things will have to be taken into consideration by the government. Government as of now is wanting to talk to the farmers. I've listened to multiple ministers commenting on this. They have to talk to the farmers, or they want to talk to the farmers. Now let us see what happens. Now coming to this, the Indian economy, a review. From 2014 till 2024, these were the growth years. However, 2020-21 was impacted due to COVID. Years after that have been impacted due to geopolitical tensions all across the world. Since the world is more interdependent, intertwined right now, so events happening anywhere in the world are going to impact anywhere in the world. So it is like this. Now during this period, let's see the growth rate. Now in 2023-24, which is currently going on, the current estimates are that 7.3% will be the growth rate. In financial year 22, 9.1% was the growth rate. Don't be too happy about this figure, because see, this growth rate is measured from the previous year. So FY21 means 2020-21, the economy shrank and that base became lower. From that base, rising 9.2% is not such a great achievement. 7.2% in financial year 2023. From here, we can say this is good achievement. From here, we can say this is good achievement. The impressive post-pandemic recovery has been the urban employment rate decline to 6.6%. People, especially the opposition leaders, they keep on cribbing that unemployment is too high, unemployment is too high, but the government data says that the unemployment rates are declining. So it is like this. In May 2023, the number of net new subscribers to EPFO, that is Employee Provident Fund Office. These are basically social security schemes which the people who are working they generally adopt. So 18 to 25 years of aged people, they have consistently exceeded 55% of the total net new EPF subscribers. These are these people. Means more and more people are going for social security. Then the government has extended Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana or National Food Security Act, I can consider it, up till 2028, in which free food grains, whether it be rice, wheat or coarse grains, they will be getting. Priority households 5 kg per person per month. Antyodaya Anna Yojana households 35 kg per household per month. So this will be given to them free of cost. Then the government is building a road network. We all know the road network or the impressive road network of our country, which is increasing and increasing and increasing. And we know the person at helm of affairs, Mr. Nitin Gadkari. So there has been an impressive, I would say, building of infrastructure. Then 74 airports were there in the country in the first 67 years after independence. Now it doubled that number in the last 9 years. Means around 130 or 140 airports are now there. In just 9 years, these many were added. Number of universities was 723 in 2014 and it increased to 1113 in 2023. More girls are now in higher education than boys. We also saw this in that survey on higher education. Gross enrollment ratio for girls 27.9 in 2020 vis-a-vis 12.7% in financial year 10, means 2009-10. Total enrollment in higher education was 3.4 crore in 2014. It has gone up to 4.1 crore students in 2023. So these are some of the comparisons. India's economic growth suffered in FY21. FY means 2020-21 due to global pandemic. We all know that. Real GDP contracted, means it reduced. There was negative growth of 5.8%. It had to be. However, the government's agile response to this situation, because government at that time spent in or I would say undertook these reforms, fiscal reforms, means the government increased spending in those areas where it was utmost necessary, like giving food grains, launching Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana and all. On the other hand, the government increased the taxes, like it increased excise duty on petroleum products at that time. So this was fiscal response. Monetary response, it basically tried to maintain the money supply in the economy so that demand is generated. It increased its spending on MG Narega and all, so that the rural people are getting the money which they need to spend. And health responses, like everyone was eligible for getting free treatment in the government hospitals. Everyone got free vaccination also by the government. So these were the things. Then further, the government, despite conflict in Ukraine and disrupted supplies due to it, fertilizer, food and fuel, these three things were impacted. Crude oil purchases at the right price were done by the government because we got what? Discounted oil prices or discounted oil from Russia. Government gave a 50-year interest-free loans of 1 lakh crore to the states in financial year 23. We've seen this in the budget video as well. And announced another 1.3 lakh crore to 50-year interest-free loans in FY24. Now out of this 1.3 lakh interest-free loan given to the states, 97,000 crore have been taken by the states to invest on various sectors. Which sectors? Infrastructure, education. All these money has to be invested in capex, capital expenditure. It has to be. Capital expenditure is that expenditure which is done by the governments, which will give returns in the future. Okay. So this loan is particularly for that purpose. Now, what have been the drivers of India's growth in the last decade? We need to know that. There have been reforms in the financial sector, particularly recapitalization and mergers of public sector banks. Many public sector banks have been merged. Like in SBI, only many subsidiaries of SBI have been merged. So it has eased the governance. Then there was this amendment to the SARFAESI Act, which established the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 IBC. This is for those struggling businesses who want to, get I would say dissolved. So someone comes, they take over the businesses, they give loans, or they buy those businesses which are struggling, and through those money, the struggling business owners, they pay their loans or debts, resulting in low debts of the banks, or resulting in low bad debts by the banks. So these restructuring and all reforms were done. Simplification of regulatory frameworks. So for example, there's a law called as RERA, Real Estate Regulation and Development Act 2016. It was passed to regulate the real estate sector, which was highly unregulated, due to which a lot of scams and all were happening. So investor confidence was very low. So now investor confidence is high, so they will be investing because they know that their money is safe. Government is there to protect their money against the fraudulent real estate business owners. So like these steps were taken which upped the investor sentiment. Taxation reforms. Goods and services tax was implemented in 2017. At that time, 68 lakh people or 68 lakh entities were there. The tax base in goods and services tax have doubled. Around 1.4 crore, entities are there paying GST presently. Tax collection has improved. Then the corporate and income tax have been reduced. In this year's budget also we could see it further reducing. Exemptions of sovereign wealth funds and pension funds from taxes. Now they are tax free. Whatever returns you get on them. Removing the dividend distribution tax have reduced the tax burden on the individuals and businesses. So these are streamlining, I would say, activities in the taxation regime which have been done by the government. Engagement with the private sector. A new public sector enterprise policy for Atmanirbhar Bharat has been, developed. The aim is to minimize presence of the government in the PSEs, and to only a few strategic sectors government will be there. Else, they are delegating it to the private sector, including railways. We could see the private sector operating trains. In the future, you will further see this. So private sector brings a lot of efficiency in those sectors. So this is what the government's aim is. Then focus on manufacturing sector. What? The focus on manufacturing sector the government has done, because this sector had been largely ignored. Production linked incentives scheme. Government clearly says you do the production, this much production you've done, you take the incentives. What kind of incentives? Tax benefits you can take, or you can take input subsidies, or XYZ, any kind of help. So any kind of investment is given by the government. But the condition is that this incentive or this help by the government will only be given if you do that mandated amount of production. Explicitly, quality of production is not talked about, but it is assumed that demand of the products will be there, then only you will be producing this much. And demand of the products will be there only when there will be maintained quality of the products. Strategic sectors such as defense, mining and space, they have been open for the private sector. Last year we could see the first private launch vehicle, Mission Prarambh. Then we could see the formation of agencies like InSpace in ISRO, which is aimed, or whose main focus is to facilitate private investment in space sector. Then FDI policy has been further liberalized. 100% FDI is allowed under automatic route in multiple sectors now. Progressive reforms in the MSME sectors have been done, which has increased its productivity. Then infrastructure and logistics bottlenecks, they are addressed. So we know about the infrastructure development in the country. If I talk about road connectivity, we have Bharatmala, port connectivity, We have Sagarmala, electrification, railway upgradation, and new airports, air routes. They have been formed under Udan. In 2022, we passed this national logistics policy, which aims at reducing the logistics cost. Presently, it is somewhere around 12-13%. The aim is to bring it to 8% single digit. So, it is like this. And finally, is use and growth of technology. Now, in all the sectors we discussed, whether it be logistics or it be taxation or any other sector which we discussed, everywhere we could see the use of technology, the digital public infrastructure of the country. This digital public infrastructure has not only made the lives of the people and the government easy, but it has also made it more efficient. Implementation and all is too much efficient. Banking has become efficient. Subsidies are reaching to the people at the grassroots level through this JAM Trinity. JAM is Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, which is part of our digital public infrastructure. So when subsidies are reaching to the people, their spending capacity is increased. When their spending capacity is increased, automatically economic activity will increase. So all these things were not possible with this particular push to the digital infrastructure of the country. And today we should be proud that many countries in the world are demanding our digital infrastructure or they are wanting our help in transforming their economies or in their digital transformation. But I said that there are multiple challenges also. We need to understand those challenges to get a holistic picture. These challenges are presently the challenges which the Indian economy has been facing since the last decade. So 2014 to 2024 only is basically the time duration of these challenges. Now, in an increasingly integrated global economy, India's growth outlook is not only a function of its domestic performance. Domestically, we may be performing brilliantly, but since we are not isolated, we are connected with the world. So anything happening anywhere can impact us. And the worst part is that it is not under our control. Anything happening anywhere. Geopolitical conflicts, geo-economic conflicts, climate change, all these things are there. So increased geo-economic fragmentation and the slowdown of the hyper-globalization are likely to result in further friendshoring and onshoring, which are already having repercussions on the global trade. So it is like this. Then the trade-off between energy security and economic growth versus energy transition. Energy transition is we are transitioning from a fossil fuel based economy to a non-fossil fuel based economy. That is the energy transition. Now, we need energy security on one side because we are rapidly growing. Will we able to produce that much energy through renewable sources or non-fossil based fuel sources? We want electricity. And on the other hand, we also want to conserve the environment. That is why we are doing this transition, no? Will we be able to meet our demands from this transition? If not, then will we go for this transition? This actually gives rise to the debate that energy security and economic growth, because this energy security will give economic growth. But on the other hand, we have to do energy transition also. So, what if energy transition does not give energy security? It means our growth will be compromised and we cannot in any form compromise the growth. So, this is a big challenge for the country. How to do smooth energy transition? That needs to be addressed. Then, next is advent of artificial intelligence. This poses a lot of threat. Lot of threat for, I would say, frauds or employment. Now, according to this IMF paper, 40% of global employment is exposed to AI and can negatively be impacted due to it. Now, here the economies need to be more resilient due to this or from this AI. And last is domestically ensuring the availability of a talented and appropriately skilled workforce. A healthy and fit population is what we need. So, our focus on health, education and skill development should be ample. And here presently we are not up to the mark. To be very frank, this is a challenge existing in front of us. So, this we need to understand from the current decade or the last decade which has just gone by. Economic growth, no doubt, very well. Our responses to COVID pandemic, no doubt, very well. Our responses to the geopolitical tensions, till now, very well. But yes, challenges need to be addressed. So, with this, we come to an end of today's session. I will be meeting you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. Keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep revising. Namaste. Jai Hind.